Hello everyone, welcome to Hopeful Moments 1. Today, we're going to hear a story about facing pressure from upper management while also creating an efficient process, maintaining creativity at work, and protecting the interests of the team. Today's story will take you through a surprising situation. A public criticism from the CEO towards you and your team, even though your workflow had significantly improved ticket processing efficiency and reduced complaints. If you find this story interesting and full of valuable lessons, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insightful stories. I used to manage the activation department at an internet service provider, ISP. However, I didn't feel like I was truly managing the team in the traditional sense. Instead, I always believed in a leadership style where everyone works with me, not for me. For me, leadership isn't about top-down instructions but about collaboration, where I guide, support, and create opportunities for people to perform at their best. To provide some context, our company had gone through a strong growth phase over the past few years. However, due to not hiring enough staff to keep up with this rapid growth, the old activation team had faced significant challenges and, eventually, decided to quit. When I joined this department, I had some experience from the support team and was tasked with taking over in a very stressful situation. To understand the situation better, the ISP industry in my country isn't as large or competitive as in other countries. On the contrary, it's relatively small with uneven development. This created a certain level of ambiguity that I can't go into too much detail about. But some necessary background information is that we were working in an understaffed environment with an increasing workload, which forced me to figure out how to manage it. Our old team consisted of 3 employees and 1 department head. Their working method was quite unique. One person would handle the oldest tickets in the queue, while the other 2 focused on the new tickets to ensure progress was maintained. However, this work was not easy. They were frequently interrupted by incoming calls, direct customer visits, and constant messages. The department head was responsible for handling payment and service cancellation issues, while the other employees dealt with connection and technical support tickets. One striking feature of the workflow was that each ticket was often handled by multiple employees in one day. This was not uncommon, and even one employee could work on the same ticket several times in a day, which created a complex working cycle and was prone to confusion. Additionally, unpaid overtime, even though we were all salaried employees, became an essential part of our daily work, especially when handling overnight support tickets. When the old team resigned, they left behind about 1,000 unresolved tickets. This was not unusual, as customer complaints happened regularly, but not always seriously. However, when I took over the task, I realized a serious issue. With the company's rapid growth and increasing number of customers, the workload had exceeded the capacity of the team. By the time the story began, we had over 3,000 tickets, and surprisingly, the number of complaints was almost negligible, even though my team had little experience and was working in a system with many ongoing issues. To give you a better idea, the number of tickets we had to handle each day was far higher than all other departments in the company combined. We had to handle 2 to 3 times the number of tickets compared to all other departments, which created immense pressure on our team. However, it is worth noting that despite the huge challenges, the team maintained a high level of efficiency with a very low number of complaints, proving that we were doing a job that was not easy at all. Throughout the process of improvement, we implemented many changes, and I gradually became an expert in managing the ticket system. However, the most important and far-reaching change was the shift to a new working system focused on prioritization and setting due dates for all tickets. Instead of just focusing on the age of the tickets, we now clearly define the time needed to complete each task. Specifically, every new ticket had the due date set for the same day. If a customer requested a connection on another day, and the result of the check showed no need for a technician's intervention, we would adjust the due date as per the customer's request. Conversely, if the connection required a technician, the technician's scheduled date would become the official due date. This system allowed us to stay on top of changes promptly and ensure that no ticket was overlooked. What was special about this new process was that when there were any changes from the customer, such as sending an email or updating information about a ticket, the due date would automatically be adjusted, rather than keeping the old one. This helped our team easily track and respond quickly, even if the customer's request and the technician's involvement might be months apart. Everything was tracked in real time, and as a result, rework was significantly reduced. This new system not only helped reduce unnecessary ticket processing, but also ensured that customer updates were responded to quickly and accurately. As a result, The number of calls and requests for resolutions also decreased significantly. Now, please be patient with me, all of this will become important. My priority was handling service cancellations and payments. Once done, I would follow up with the same priority with the team unless I had a meeting. The team's priority, simplified: 1. Check new orders and relocations, schedule technicians, and set due dates accordingly. 2. Activate completed orders or update customers, technicians, and due dates if there are issues. 3. Important: escalate overdue orders and track escalated issues, due dates. 4. Activate phone orders. 5. Finally, all other items due that day. We built a system that operated extremely efficiently and smoothly. Thanks to the optimized process, only about 0.5% to 1% of our orders encountered issues requiring escalation. Most customers were satisfied, and we frequently received positive feedback about the quality of service. However, despite these clear results, the CEO did not fully understand how our team operated or the extensive changes in the process that allowed us to achieve this efficiency. As a result, my daily reports were often ignored in end-of-day meetings simply because we had fewer issues. He mainly focused on other departments, where there were more problems, without realizing that our department's success was the result of careful improvements and the right decisions we had made. The way we worked now meant that technical issues or scheduling were also escalated and resolved quickly because nothing was left out. The wholesale internet provider worked very well with us because we had set clear expectations with customers and always had great data to support the escalation process. Even our most remote customers, who had to wait for technicians to install satellite internet connections, completely understood. Often, the technicians had to take charter bush planes and then drive off-road to reach the customers, as they were usually hundreds of kilometers away from town. These customers generally understood the logistical factors involved and the waiting times. Problems rarely occurred. Despite receiving many orders each day, there were also a fair number of customers who canceled their services. The main reasons were long waiting times for support or unsatisfactory email responses. This worried the CEO because the numbers showed that we were losing customers, and there was a risk of negatively impacting shareholders. One afternoon, he couldn't hold back his anger and scolded me in front of everyone. He blamed me for the company's negative growth and demanded that I ensure all customers would be connected within 3 days, or the issues would be escalated. "We have too many unconnected orders. There can be no more excuses from the provider," he yelled. Escalating these issues and handling the connections became our top priority, and we had to track them every day. He couldn't stand the idea that my team wasn't working hard enough, with accusations full of doubt. Everyone around me was stunned. They understood that we weren't perfect, but we were still the smoothest running department in the company. The silence and tension in the room were overwhelming. I felt angry, but I just took a deep breath. "All right, let's go with this. Just follow the orders." After the public scolding, I immediately sent an email confirming what the CEO had just said. I needed all those words in writing. He demanded that the orders be handled within 3 days, but didn't mention working days. This meant everything had to be completed that day. I couldn't let that slide without clarification. So, I decided to hold a meeting with my team immediately. I informed them that we would face many problems in the ticket queue soon, and we needed to make one thing clear. The CEO did not understand how we worked. He didn't understand the effort and strategy we had put in to maintain the efficiency of the work. The way he criticized and imposed demands was unfair and unreasonable. I emphasized that my team should not be subjected to unreasonable pressure from the numbers. None of us worked overtime without pay. Even though we were salaried employees, I was clear. Fixed salaries covered reasonable overtime, not working outside office hours. I would not accept my team working beyond their shifts without proper compensation. They only worked until their shifts ended, with no comp time or unpaid overtime. And if there were any consequences, I would take full responsibility, as I was the one protecting my team. They should not have to endure unreasonable stress from unrealistic demands. Each day, we had to handle about 300 tickets, and that day was a Friday. Some customers could not be connected until Tuesday, which would last up to 4 days. Although we had escalated the issues and notified the customers, the situation did not improve. The roads were flooded due to rain, and the technicians couldn't move because of the bad weather. This was beyond our control. We continued to escalate 50 new orders that day. This meant that by Monday, in addition to the weekend orders and new Monday orders, we would also have to handle 50 previously escalated orders. That day, our ticket queue had over 100 new escalated orders, along with 50 orders to follow up on from before. In total, we had to process about 450 tickets. And only less than a third of the new orders were connected, even though they didn't need technicians. The next day, the situation didn't improve much. Only a few orders were connected, and we had over 600 overdue tickets. By Thursday, the support department was bombarded with calls and emails from customers who were seeking answers about their connections. The overdue tickets increased into the thousands, wait times grew longer, and many customers began canceling their services. Complaints rose, and everything started to fall into chaos. By the following Monday, the support managers stormed into my office, furious, demanding that I immediately get my team in order. I didn't respond but simply directed them to the CEO. A meeting was held with all department managers to discuss the current situation of the company. When asked about the situation, I simply pointed to the email I had sent and reminded them of the public scolding that my team and I had received. I informed them that I was simply following the CEO's orders. That's ridiculous. Use your brain. You need to know what needs to be escalated. His voice was sharp and full of anger. I tried to explain that I was following the correct process and thought I was doing the right thing, but immediately he yelled at me in front of the whole company. A sense of shame spread, not only for me but also for my team. He made it clear that I didn't know what I was doing and demanded that I immediately follow his instructions. He decided to revert to the old way of operating without a second thought. And if there were any changes, he would review my process later. I tried to defend my position, emphasizing that the situation was not as simple as it seemed. Making decisions about escalation issues was not an easy task, and we needed to closely monitor the issues with the provider. Moreover, to bring the queue back in order, we would need at least a few weeks. But my words seemed to fade away amidst his fury. He refused to listen. No, new orders are the #1 priority. Connect customers immediately, he yelled. I was prepared to protest, but before I could speak, his anger flared up again. He demanded that I follow his instructions, with no exceptions. Once again, I had no choice but to follow orders. I wrote an email confirming his directive as a protective step for what had transpired. We had to stop tracking escalated issues, even though we knew they were still unresolved. But with the volume of new orders flooding in, everything else had to be paused. Everything seemed to spin out of control, with his demand being the only thing that mattered. That weekend, the provider held an emergency meeting with the company's board of directors, a meeting I was not allowed to attend. They threatened to terminate our wholesale contract because we had disrupted their matrix with unresolved escalated issues and forced their staff to work beyond their capacity. Even worse, we had failed to meet our commitments with them. This provider was the primary supplier for most of our customers, so this threat was not just a warning but a crisis that could jeopardize the entire company. When the meeting ended, I was called up to explain before the board of directors. Emails had been prepared in advance, and with the support and sales managers as witnesses, I had to explain what had happened. After presenting my case, I was only allowed to leave without receiving any clear feedback, making me feel as though I was standing at a crossroads, filled with tension and exhaustion. The consequences. My team and I were given an unlimited overtime budget to get everything back on track. Unfortunately, no staff from other departments could support us in any meaningful way. But my team was happy to work overtime with the maximum pay according to labor laws. The company also provided dinner. In the end, it took us more than 6 weeks to repair the damage the CEO caused by forcing overtime. The provider also reduced our compensation because they no longer considered us a top-tier ISP. My reports were no longer ignored, and the CEO started sitting with me more frequently to understand how we operated, and praised me for the innovations stemming from my team's suggestions. He no longer gave me directives like before, but instead asked for my opinion before making proposals. Ultimately, we regained our top-tier status.